My name is Elena. I am a teacher, and teaching has always been my passion. There's something magical about watching young minds grow, filled with curiosity and wonder. For years, I've dedicated myself to my students, finding joy and purpose in my work. But life, as it often does, threw me a curveball, a story of love, betrayal, and self-discovery that would change me forever. It started last year when I met John. He was the new math teacher at school, charismatic, kind, and always wearing a smile that could brighten the dullest day. We bonded over shared laughter in the teacher's lounge, swapping stories about our students and the occasional absurdity of school life. John had this way of making you feel seen, like you were the only person in the room. At first it was innocent. We'd stay late after school, working on lesson plans or talking about life. I enjoyed his company. He was witty, insightful, and a breath of fresh air. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely excited to go to work. One evening, as I was grading papers at home, my phone buzzed. I answered, not recognizing the number. On the other end was a calm but firm voice. "Hello, is this Elena?" "Yes, this is Elena," I replied, confused. "This is Olivia. I'm John's wife." The words hit me like a freight train. Wife. John never mentioned being married. My heart sank as Olivia continued, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've seen you with him. I know you're close, and I needed you to know the truth. We've been married for 5 years, and I love him. I want to save my family." I was stunned. My mind raced as I struggled to process her words. I had no idea John was married. I felt sick. Had I unknowingly become the other woman? If this story resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Together, we can share more stories that touch the heart and remind us of the power of resilience and self-worth. Let's grow this community and continue supporting each other through life's twists and turns. The next day, I confronted John. We found a quiet corner at school, and I asked him directly, "Why didn't you tell me you're married?" His face fell. "Elena, I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't want to hurt you. Or Olivia." "Hurt me?" "Hurt her," I said, my voice rising. "John, you've been lying to both of us." "I care about you, Elena," he said softly. I didn't know how to stop what we had. I felt my heart break. How could he say he cared while betraying Olivia? I realized then that I couldn't trust him. Not with my feelings, and certainly not with my future. After that conversation, I made a decision. I told John we couldn't continue seeing each other. Not as friends, not as colleagues, not at all. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but I knew it was the right one. Olivia had reached out to me in desperation, and I couldn't be the reason her family fell apart. I felt betrayed, hurt, and angry. Not just at John but at myself for letting it get this far. Days later, I reached out to Olivia. It wasn't easy, but I felt it was necessary. We met at a park, and she arrived with visible apprehension. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. I nodded. "I just wanted you to know that I've ended things with John. I didn't know he was married, but now that I do, I want to respect your marriage." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You didn't have to do this," she said. "But I'm so grateful. I don't want to lose him." We talked for hours, sharing our fears and pain. Despite the circumstances, I admired Olivia's strength and her determination to fight for her family. She thanked me repeatedly, and though my heart was heavy, I felt a glimmer of hope that things might work out for her and John. Confronting John again was inevitable. I told him about my conversation with Olivia. "She loves you," I said. "She deserves your honesty." He looked down, his voice barely audible. "I've made such a mess." "Yes, you have," I replied, tears in my eyes. "But it's not too late to make things right with her." Walking away from John that day felt like tearing out a piece of my heart, but I knew it was the only way to truly heal. My friend Maria became my rock. Over coffee, I poured out my emotions, and she listened patiently. "You did the right thing," she said. "It's painful now, but you're choosing integrity. That's something to be proud of." Her words stayed with me. They reminded me that even in heartbreak, I was in control of my actions and my path forward. In the weeks that followed, I decided I needed a fresh start. I applied for teaching positions in a nearby city and was thrilled to land a new job. Saying goodbye to my students and colleagues was bittersweet, but I knew it was time for a change. As I settled into my new city, I focused on rebuilding my life. I made new friends, explored new hobbies, and started to feel like myself again. Olivia sent me a message one day, thanking me for my kindness and letting me know she and John were working on their marriage. It brought me peace to know I had done the right thing. Time became my greatest ally. I allowed myself to feel the pain, but I also embraced the joy of new experiences. I went on hikes, took up painting, and spent quiet evenings reflecting on the lessons I had learned. I realized that love, while beautiful, is only meaningful when it's honest and respectful. Months later, I found myself in a new relationship. This time, it was built on trust, openness, and mutual respect. I didn't rush into it. I allowed myself to heal first, to rediscover who I was and what I wanted. And in doing so, I found someone who valued me for everything I am. One evening, I went for a walk in the park. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I thought about Olivia, John, and everything that had happened. While it had been one of the hardest chapters of my life, it had also been one of the most transformative. I learned that love isn't always enough. It must be accompanied by honesty and respect. I learned the importance of listening to my intuition and standing firm in my values. Most of all, I learned that no matter how much it hurts, walking away from something wrong is always worth it. Just as I was beginning to feel settled in my new life, an unexpected message popped up on my phone. It was from John. My heart sank as I read the words. "I'm sorry for everything, Elena. Can we talk?" I hesitated, conflicted. Why now? After all the heartache, why was he reaching out? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a nearby cafe. When we met, he looked different. Tired, older, as though the weight of his choices had finally caught up to him. "Elena," he began, "I just needed to apologize. I hurt you, and I hurt Olivia. I've realized how selfish I've been." His words were unexpected, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of relief. But then he said something that shook me. "Olivia and I separated." I froze. "What? Why?" "She couldn't forgive me. I've lost her. And now I don't know where to go from here." The sadness in his eyes was palpable, but I felt anger bubbling beneath the surface. "John, I needed closure months ago. You can't come back now, hoping I'll be your safe harbor." His silence told me he hadn't considered the impact of his actions. This journey taught me to value myself and to never settle for less than I deserve. Love will come again, I know, and when it does, it will be built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect. Weeks after my conversation with John, life returned to normal. One evening, while walking in the park, I noticed someone sitting alone on a bench. His face was unfamiliar, but there was a kindness in his expression. He smiled as I walked past. "Excuse me," he said. "Do you know where the nearest library is?" His voice was warm, polite. I gave him directions, and he thanked me with a smile that lingered in my mind even after I walked away. Over the next few days, I found myself running into him again. At the cafe, at the grocery store. Each time, our conversations grew longer. His name was Daniel, and he had recently moved to the city to start over, much like I had. Daniel and I began spending more time together. He was gentle, funny, and curious about the world in a way that felt refreshing. He shared stories about his past, about how he had left a toxic relationship to find peace. One evening, as we sat under the stars, he turned to me and asked, "What about you, Elena? What brought you here?" For the first time I opened up about John, about Olivia, and about the journey that had led me here. Daniel listened intently, his presence a comforting balm to old wounds. "You've been through so much," he said softly, "but you're still standing. That says a lot about who you are." His words stayed with me, lighting a spark of hope I hadn't felt in a long time. Just as things were beginning to feel right with Daniel, I received another call, from Olivia. Her voice was tense. "Elena, I need to tell you something," she said. "John has been talking about you. A lot. I think he's planning to reach out again." My stomach dropped. "Why would he do that?" "I don't know," she replied. "But I wanted to warn you. You don't owe him anything, Elena." Her words were both a warning and a reminder. I couldn't let myself be dragged back into the chaos I had worked so hard to escape. True to Olivia's warning, John showed up unannounced one evening. Seeing him on my doorstep brought back a flood of emotions. Anger, sadness, and a twinge of pity. "I just needed to see you," he said. "I don't have anyone else." "John, you can't keep doing this," I said firmly. "You need to focus on yourself, on rebuilding your life. I'm not your solution." He looked defeated but nodded. "I'm sorry, Elena, for everything." Watching him walk away, I felt a sense of finality. This time, I knew it was truly over. As the weeks passed, my bond with Daniel grew stronger. He was different, steady, reliable, and honest. For the first time, I felt safe in a relationship. One evening, as we walked by the river, Daniel stopped and took my hand. Elena, I don't want to rush you, but I want you to know. I see a future with you. And I'm willing to wait until you're ready. His sincerity brought tears to my eyes. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future free of the pain and betrayal that had once defined my past. Out of the blue, I received another message from Olivia. This time, her tone was lighter, happier. I thought you'd like to know, she wrote. I've decided to move too. A fresh start feels like the right choice. Her message brought a smile to my face. It was proof that healing was possible, even after the deepest wounds. We exchanged a few more messages, wishing each other well. It felt like a chapter closing, not just for her, but for me too. One quiet evening, as I sat with Daniel watching the sunset, I realized how far I had come. The pain of the past no longer weighed me down. Instead, it had become a part of my story, a reminder of my resilience and strength. When Daniel asked me if I wanted to take the next step in our relationship, I didn't hesitate. For the first time, I felt ready. Ready to love, ready to trust, and ready to embrace the future. One quiet evening, as I sat with Daniel watching the sunset, I realized how far I had come. The pain of the past no longer weighed me down. Instead, it had become a part of my story, a reminder of my resilience and strength. When Daniel asked me if I wanted to take the next step in our relationship, I didn't hesitate. For the first time, I felt ready. Ready to love, ready to trust, and ready to embrace the future. Life with Daniel was everything I had hoped for. Peaceful, joyful, and full of possibilities. We supported each other through challenges, celebrated each other's successes, and built a life that felt authentic and true. Looking back, I realized that every twist and turn, every moment of heartbreak and healing, had led me here. I was stronger, wiser, and more open to the beauty of life. As I walked hand in hand with Daniel through the park one evening, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. My journey wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and it was only just beginning. If this story has touched your heart, take a moment to like this video and hit subscribe to join our community. Your support helps us continue sharing stories of hope, resilience, and love. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your story too.